The early stages of cinema were a lot more volatile. New forms of watching, recording, and shooting were being developed every day, and this continued on for many years. There were many pioneers for cinema: the Lumiere brothers, Edwin S. Porter, George Méliès, and D.W. Griffith. The Lumiere brothers were two French manufacturers of photography equipment, making short films from the years of 1895 to 1905, and created the original film, Workers Leaving the Lumiere Factory. These types of films were known as actualities, being filmed on a stationary camera without any sort of cuts or edits. Edwin S. Porter would then build on the Lumiere brothers style, creating Life of an American Fireman, taking heavy inspiration from George Méliès's fountain of physically cutting the film to cut between various shots to create seamless continuity within the film. D.W. Griffith was known as the father of narrative cinema, which would then go on to become the popular classical Hollywood style of editing that would be used within Hollywood for years to come. He would create parallel editing, the technique of editing two simultaneous shots of different scenes together to create a sense of tension in the original scene. Continuity editing is the use of editing shots/cuts together to create a seamless story throughout the scene. It needs to be invisible to the viewer and create a seamless flow within the scene and not bring attention to itself. Two of the most used techniques that are used to achieve continuity editing would have to be the 180-degree rule and the use of eyeline matching. Eyeline matching is used to create a seamless transition between characters talking to each other and creates the feel as if you are in the room. The 180-degree rule is used to give proper space within the scene and to allow the viewer to keep track of where the characters are within a scene. In this scene, the director makes heavy use of both the 180-degree rule and eyeline matching in order to create both good spatial awareness within the scene and to also create a seamless story as Steve Buscemi's character Mr. Pink tells his story.
Let me just get this straight. You don't ever tip, huh?
I don't tip because society says I have to. All right, I mean, I'll tip if somebody really deserves a tip. If they really put forth the effort, I'll give them something extra. But I mean, this tipping automatically, it's for the birds.
The constant cutting between the over-the-shoulder shots, along with the heavy use of the 180-degree rule, is to center the scene properly around the table, creating the feeling like you'd be standing in the diner along with the characters. It doesn't disorientate the viewer, as you can clearly tell where everyone is within the scene and can follow along the story as such. The 180-degree rule is a rule within filmmaking that is used to help the audience keep track of where the characters are within a scene. When you have two people/groups of people facing each other within the same shot, you would establish an invisible 180-degree line between them that the camera does not cross within the scene. They allow the director to build up the spatial awareness within the scene, without having to show an established shot of every scene, especially the ones that are shot inside. The 180-degree rule is used within every genre of film, as it is one of the best ways to have continuity editing within a film. The technique itself was used as far back as cinema itself, as the director didn't want to disorientate the viewer as they are watching their films. Another reason it was standard was due to the directors in the 1930s shooting the scene from one straightforward angle, just like directing a theatre play, and thus was, even if not meaning to, sticking to the 180-degree rule. Within the scene, we can see the cast all seated around the table as Tommy DeVito and Henry Hill have a conversation about how funny Tommy is.
It's funny, you know. It's a good story. It's funny. You're a funny guy.
Tommy seems to become more hostile out of nowhere and begins to confront Henry, repeating "funny how" to him as Henry becomes blatantly uneasy within the scene.
Funny how? I mean, what's funny about it?
Yeah, Tommy, no, you got it all wrong.
Oh, Anthony. He's a big boy. He knows what he said. What'd you say?
You're right.
Funny how? What?
Just, you know, you're funny.
You mean,
So?
well, let me understand this, because maybe it's me, I'm a little up, maybe. But I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to fucking amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
No, just, you know how you tell a story. What?
No, I don't know. You said it. How do I know? You said I'm funny. How the fuck am I funny? What the fuck is so funny about me? Tell me. Tell me what's funny.
Before breaking into laughter as they are all messing around.
Get the fuck out of here, Tommy.
I almost had him.
We can see that there is a heavy use of the 180-degree rule within the scene, shooting from only one side of the table and thus keeping each character in a visible spot around the table and not changing it. It keeps the scene in line and keeps the spatial awareness in the scene intact and doesn't disorientate the viewer. The use of this, eyeline matching, and over-the-shoulder shots keep the continuity of the scene clear to the viewer and doesn't break from this formula at all. Non-continuity editing is the use of techniques like jump cuts, flash forwards, and choppy editing to disrupt the flow of time within a scene. It is used to purposefully make a scene look jarring and makes the time and space within the scene become completely disrupted. Some techniques that would achieve non-continuity editing would have to be flash forwards and flashbacks, as both of these can completely disrupt whatever scene they are a part of. Within the scene, we can see the use of flashbacks to disrupt the flow of the scene as it cuts from the current scene to a scene that has happened in the past. The heavy use of discoloration used over the flashback is to clearly distinguish between the current scene and the flashback. The hard cut between the two scenes shows how much of an emotional impact it has on the character of Django within the scene. The heavy use of close-ups is to purposefully show the character's emotions and disrupt the story, as this is used to disrupt the story flow with this heavy scene. Freeze frames within a film are used in order to allow a narrator / on-screen text to give more context to a shot, character, action within a scene. They are also used to put more emphasis or emotion on a given shot, as it lingers while still having the sound continue in the background. They are usually used to break the flow of a film and disrupt the scene that it is used within. They are heavily used within the drama genre, creating an easy way for the director to have a non-continuity scene within the film while still make it seem cohesive to the viewer. This was first used by Alfred Hitchcock in 1982 in his film Champagne, mainly as a transition between the frames. It is used in a shot of a woman remembering a party on a boat. The scene then freezes, and the freeze frame is used as a transition as the frame becomes a photograph on the wall. It was a good way for Hitchcock to describe a rougher cut back in the early days of cinema. Within the scene, we see the character of Henry give a small rundown of his life when he was younger, owing to people not messing with him out of respect due to the people he was associated with.
One day some of the kids from the neighborhood carried my mother's groceries all the way home. You know why? It was out of respect.
We see the director use a hard freeze frame to disrupt the flow of the scene as Henry narrates throughout, the scene stopping but his voiceover does not, creating a disruptive flow to the scene. It is purposefully jarring to the viewer, as it makes them focus on the frozen frame, and then puts extreme emphasis on the voiceover of Henry used over the shot. It is an extremely effective way of disrupting the flow of the scene, and the director, Martin Scorsese, does this a lot within his films. Cutaways are an edit that usually displays something other than the current action within the scene, irrespective of time and space within the scene. Cut-ins are edits that are used to show detail within the scene, be it character or object within the scene. They are techniques that can be used in both continuity and non-continuity editing, and thus are powerful tools in an editor's arsenal. They are both heavily used within the drama genre, cutaway shots being used to break the tension within a scene, and cut-ins being used to heighten the tension within the same scene. Both of these techniques are similar, usually used within the same scenes, but both have different roles within the scene. They are both heavily tied to close-ups, as close-ups can be used to both heighten tension, but also to relieve it, i.e. a close-up of someone's sweaty face versus a close-up of an item that a person has been looking for throughout the film. Within the scene, we can see a heartfelt conversation between the two characters about how they are going to have to cut all ties with each other. The use of the cutaway in between the close-ups of each of the characters is there to not only give more context to where they are, but it's also a good shot to keep the tension high within the scene.
I don't know what else to say. I know I fucked up.
Fucked up. Yeah, you fucked up.
No, but I'm alright now. You know, I can be trusted now, Paulie. I'm clean. On my kids, I'm clean.
It keeps the pace of the scene slower as it cuts away from the characters rather than back and forth continually. A cut-in is then used towards the end of the scene to break the tension that has been created through the use of close-ups and the cutaway shot, as the character of Paul decides to help Henry before he has to turn his back on him.
Take this. Now I gotta turn my back.
It's a much more effective way of subtly telling the viewer that he still cares for him rather than having him outright say it, as it is a lot more effective to show and not tell to the audience.